Apple cider vinegar. The fans say apple cider vinegar has many benefits like reducing weight, decreasing cholesterol, and decreasing blood sugar. They say it even kills germs due to its acetic acid. But is apple cider vinegar really that good? Or is it just another overhyped superfood? Well, I used to be much more skeptical. I had planned to do a video on apple cider vinegar, and I was going to provide a lot of criticism. But as I continued to look through the evidence, I changed. My opinion changed. I've got a different perspective on apple cider vinegar. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Dr. Ford Brewer. I'm a preventive medicine doctor. I've been doing preventive medicine for 40 years, preventing heart attacks and strokes. Now, back to apple cider vinegar. It's one of the 3 common types of vinegar. You make it by fermenting apples. It does improve multiple cardiometabolic markers. Now, what are those things? We'll get into those in just a second. And it's got a lot of antioxidants and micronutrients, and maybe those are what's helping. But let's just talk about those metabolic markers. The first one, and you might hear about it, is that it can decrease cholesterol. Maybe not much, but a little bit. But here are the ones that I'm interested in. It decreases triglycerides, body weight, blood pressure, fasting sugar, and most of all, hemoglobin A1C. Let's focus on A1C because it is the bridge to understanding how ACV, or apple cider vinegar, helps to keep arteries clean. Multiple papers show that A1C, higher levels of A1C, are clearly associated with arterial plaque buildup. So obviously, in terms of logic, that means the lower the A1C, the less plaque gets developed. And that means long-term, fewer clogged arteries. Now let's go back and connect the dots a little bit further. Lowering A1C can help keep arteries clean. Apple cider vinegar helps lower A1C. So apple cider vinegar can help clean arteries. Let's consider a couple of other things. Let's get a little bit deeper. First of all, how is that even possible? And let me get this straight first as well. We're not selling apple cider vinegar. We're not saying apple cider vinegar alone cleans your arteries. Well, lifestyle is king. Better than any superfood, any supplement, any medication, any stent or bypass. Lifestyle is king, and the biggest part of lifestyle for cardiovascular disease is your diet. But what I am saying is this: apple cider vinegar daily can be a significant help and a part of a healthy lifestyle. Now let's be pragmatic and let's talk about facts. The first question to answer is, why A1C? Why not LDL cholesterol? Well, that's an interesting question, and if you're watching, you may have seen me roll my eyes. We've been there a lot. I think that the impact of LDL is way overestimated. People think they can take a statin or one of the other 3 classes of drugs that decrease LDL, and that's going to fix their problem. What they don't know is that there's a giant, a leviathan, a killer that's right in front of us and we're not seeing it. Over half of Americans alone, 18 years and older, have prediabetes. 90% don't know it. So metabolic disease is killing us, and our medical community does not know how to diagnose it. So let's go back and talk a little bit further about A1C. Why is A1C such an important marker, and how does it work? Okay, here's a little bit of a geek alert. Hemoglobin A1C is called AGE, Advanced Glycation End Product. Now, the key word in there is glycation. Glycation is a process where sugar gets bound permanently to a protein. So the higher your sugar, the longer your sugar is high, the higher your A1C, your hemoglobin A1C. So it starts out with this sort of mucousy, slick coating, and then that hardens and you get more of a plastic coating. So I used to have 40 years ago, way back when I went to medical school, I used to have an endocrinology professor who carried around a little piece of plastic that was built to look like muscle tissue. And he would pull that out of his pocket and say, this is your muscles, your proteins, your body on diabetes. And people would sort of look at him for a minute and he would say, no, you're not getting it. I'm being serious. You get plasticized. And this is what he was talking about. Glycation of the proteins in your body. Now let's talk about hemoglobin. Hemoglobin usually transports oxygen. It holds that iron, and the iron holds the oxygen, and then that hemoglobin and iron takes the oxygen to the tissues of your body so you can use the oxygen. But when that hemoglobin, which is a protein, gets combined with excess sugar, it transforms into hemoglobin A1C. Now, research has shown time and time again that A1Cs higher than 5.6% are closely related to increased plaque buildup. Now, what is it about A1C that causes plaque? Well, it's not the A1C. The A1C is what we would call a biomarker. It's a biological marker of this process. It's excess glucose and insulin. Excessive carbohydrates cause cardiovascular inflammation. They wreck your glycocalyx, the intima, the lining of your artery wall. Too much glucose, too much insulin for too long causes damage to the glycocalyx, damage to the intima, and therefore plaque. So it's not the A1C. It's the high glucose and the high insulin. And again, as we said, cardiovascular inflammation is what's causing the plaque. Remember, excess glucose results in increased insulin secretion by the pancreas. As you continue this process, many people feel that that's one of the major drivers for insulin resistance. Too much insulin, too long, your insulin receptors get used to it and get resistant to it. I don't really think that that's the major risk factor. I don't think that it's constantly eating carbs that causes it, except maybe through another mechanism, and that is getting fat from carbs. You know, there are three major drivers of cardiovascular inflammation or insulin resistance. One is genetics, and many people tell us, yes, insulin resistance or diabetes runs in my family. Number two, body fat. Many people think that the diabetes epidemic is being driven by the obesity epidemic. And here's the third, age. How many people have a grandma or an uncle that's aging and getting diabetic? In reality, when you look at the epidemiology, you look at the science, the evidence, it's aging that's driving this more than anything else. So let's go back at this from a different perspective. First, you can't burn glucose. You're getting insulin resistant from aging. You get excess glucose, excess glycation, excess plaque. You also stop burning your fat. Most people don't know this, but high levels of insulin keep you from burning fat. Let me repeat that. Most people don't know this, but high levels of insulin keep you from burning fat. So what happens if you can't burn carbs and you can't burn fats? You're hungry, you eat more. So this becomes a vicious spiral that leads to plaque, heart attack, stroke, death, and disability. You understand why decreasing A1C is important. A1C is a reflection of insulin resistance. Less A1C means, or lower A1C means less inflammation, less plaque. That's why I got excited when I started doing the research on apple cider vinegar. Now, you may be asking, like I did, What is it about apple cider vinegar that lowers A1C? What's the mechanism? Well, it turns out there are a couple of mechanisms. The first is it decreases gastric emptying. And if you slow down your stomach emptying food into your intestines, you're going to slow down that hit of glucose that goes into your bloodstream after a meal. Here's another mechanism, alpha amylase. That sounds like maybe a big technical complicated word, but here's what it does. It takes starches and turns them into sugars. So again, not only does apple cider vinegar decrease your gastric emptying, it also decreases your body's ability to turn starches into sugars. You might be thinking at this point, okay, Doc, you convinced me about the apple cider vinegar and plaque, but how do I know if I have plaque? Well, I'm going to briefly explain three ways to do that, and maybe a couple of ways not to. First, the couple of ways not to. Think twice about getting a stress test. The leadership in internal medicine and cardiology all admit that over half of stress tests shouldn't be done. It's even worse to go to the cath lab. And again, that's all I'm going to say about those right now. Let me talk about 3 ways that are better: CIMT, calcium score, and CT angiogram. CIMT has a bad rep with a lot of cardiologists because they hear about arterial age. Well, arterial age is not the key point about CIMT. CIMT is hard to access, hard to do right, but it's easy to find out if you have soft plaque. That's the advantage to CIMT. Calcium score you can get in most places. Most of us live within half an hour of getting an easy, relatively good quality calcium score. So why isn't that the best way to look? The problem with calcium score is this: it only shows you calcified plaque. The calcified plaque is very safe, it's stable, and it's only got a tiny bit more risk than having no plaque at all. So that's the problem with the calcium score. The third one, CT angiogram. It's got major advantages over both of the other two, all of the other types of evaluation. It shows us the anatomy, the exact amount of mix between soft and calcified or stable plaque. But here are the disadvantages. It costs thousands of dollars. It has more radiation, and it takes a while. It's not just a quick 5-minute procedure. One major question still needs to be answered. Okay, how do you take it? Do you just get a bottle of it and turn it up? Most people don't do that. I do have some friends and family who put a tablespoon in a cup of water and drink it before a meal. That works. Some people are concerned about especially taking apple cider vinegar straight because they worry about, again, that acetic acid in the enamel of the teeth. I think it is better to take it with water or another way. I don't usually take it with water. I recommend taking it with a dressing. Take a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Put in the juice of 1 or 2 limes, and you can put some other things in there too, like cayenne if you like some heat, or some of the other spices and supplements. It's a great substitute for unhealthy dressings. Remember, many of us are very concerned about seed oils. And if you're worried about seed oils, one of the biggest places that you find seed oils is in the salad dressing counter at your grocery store. This is a way to bypass that counter and that seed oil danger. Now that you know why apple cider vinegar can help keep arteries clean, and you know how to take it, you need to know this. The best way to reduce A1C is not apple cider vinegar. We've already said this. It can help, but lifestyle is king, and diet is the critical part of lifestyle. Cut your carbs, get on a low-carb diet, and a critical step is stopping eating cereal. Highly processed, ultra-processed carbs. You know, Big Food's been pushing cereal to clog arteries for decades, and they've been very successful at it, to the tune of billions of dollars of profit. Don't let Tony the Tiger take over your dinner. And if he's already taken over your breakfast, get him out of there. You know, there are problems with big pharma and big medicine as well. We talk about that in some of our other videos. You need to learn how to take care of your own body. Now, to learn more about that and the cholesterol lie associated with big pharma, big medicine, big food, check out this video right here.